Howdy everybody, this is the ongoing final chapter of the saga of the wooden wedding guest book. That board's 27 inches square, and people at the wedding signed it. It's going to get resin coated with the glaze coats, the product I'm using here. There's other competitors in the market. And some of the wood flowers from the centerpieces and boutonnieres and such, I've resined some of these already, so you can see that one's got a little bit of shine in it in some spots. I'm going to second coat some of them. I've made these preparations key I found. I did these first ones a month or two ago. Let me see if I find an example here. Yeah, so I didn't have a stand for them made, and they did stick down in a couple places. So I've 3D printed these little stands and hot glued them to a box and put a nail in the bottom. And so I'll second coat more or less the left half of these have already been done once. And if you look, I mean, like this one's been resined, it does change the color a little bit, but this is not soft. This thing, it soaks it all up. It's crazy how much, if you look down in, you might be able to find some shiny spots. You can see some shiny spots on the edge of that one, but here's some that aren't coated, and you can see they're still soft and supple. So, and then some of those, we don't know which ones yet, will get put here in the corners where there's no signatures in the lower left and the upper right corners. So tonight, I'm going to put a thin top coat over the bulk of the signatures. I'm not going to top coat here where the flowers are going to go, because I want, when these are going to get glued on with resin, whichever ones we pick. So I'll save you all the mixing and all the stuff. Here's the instructions. We'll follow the instructions for the glaze coat for the mixing. I'll probably come back after I top coat that, because I'll let some bubbles come out, and then I will start dunking these guys. So I'm prepared with mixing containers. Rather than waste a perfectly good plastic spatula, I vacuum sealed a piece of cardboard. That way there's no dust when I go to spread on there. There's not going to be any dust from the cardboard in there. So I just sealed it up and trimmed it. I'll use that to spread, because then I can just throw it away. Drop cloth, I do have a extension cord I've kind of put under here to make kind of a moat ring. That way any resin that falls off doesn't run off the edge of the table. So that's what the white extension cord you see under here is. It's just to keep this from running away. And this table that end's a little high, so I'm not worried about resin running that way. Alright, don't have a lot of time to talk here. I gotta get busy to dunking flowers, but I'm literally just gonna take all of these, and I spread what I needed over there. I gotta keep that busy with the heat gun, but I'm literally just gonna dunk these a couple at a time, and then put them back on their stands to dry. The mixing, 6 minutes, then change containers another 6 minutes. Your wrist feels like it's gonna fall off. It's like signing a mortgage, but I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. You know, I said I had to hurry up and I didn't have much time before. Well, yeah, the big pile of resin I was dipping flowers in it is exothermic, so once I saw it start smoking, not hazardous smoke, it's not going to catch on fire, but I knew it was going to cure fast, and I did run out of resin for a few of them. But I do hit the heat gun, knock the bubbles out of the board. That's a very thin coat, because when the flowers that we put on there will set the backs nice and smooth, and they will get dipped in resin. The board will get poured, the flowers will get dipped in resin, they will get set in their spots, and then the whole thing will cure with a thick, heavy top coat. So this is just a thin coat to try to minimize the amount of bubbles I have to deal with when I do the second coat in the bulk of the board. So yeah, you can see we got some real shiny ones here. Those are the ones that are two coated. And then over here, oh, come on, focus, there we go. And then towards the end here, where it started to get already setting up, they're shiny there also. So we will see what we do once they're cured. Alright, so yeah, here's what we have that is usable and resined flowers. I'm going to take and remove each one from their stand by giving them a twist. The stands are pretty well resined down to the box. With a twist, hopefully the nail, there we go, the nail pulls out of the back. And now I'll have to cut these flush once we decide which ones we want where. So I'll be back. Alright, so with a little twist and wiggle and everything, the nails stayed in the holders because the resin has that all glued together. And then you get, yeah, there's a little hole in the back where the nail was, but I plan to clean these off, cut these flush with an angle grinder, cut-off wheel. That way they can be resined into place. Playing with the layout, what goes where on here. Here's the extras. So want to figure out what goes where before I make it all one piece. The little stands, they worked pretty well. These, I decided, like, you can see some of these. This was when the resin was starting to overheat on me, and it was setting up too fast. So there's a couple you can see the stringiness in the front of that. So there's a couple I disqualified for that. Here's another example. If I had it to do again, I would only do the flowers. I did the board, put a skin coat on the board first, and that 15-20 minutes, totally I ran out of time doing the flowers. I totally would have had enough time to do all these flowers, dunk them, had I just done flowers. But since I did the board first, and then the resin sat there in the container for those 15 minutes while I was laying out the board, spreading it, it started reacting and getting warm, and then it sets up too fast. So, alright, preparing for the final step here. Got a layout determined, got a printout of it. That's where the flowers are going to go. Took the flowers out to the shop, and after I'd resined them, I'd cut the backs off flat so they don't fall over. They stay upright. Just used a cut-off wheel and an angle grinder. If I can get it to focus. So I left this naked when I poured yesterday because I want the resin that soaks into here to hook into the wood so it's stronger. Still have the board leveled, dusted it off, and we will mix. And then what I will do right after I mix, I will put some resin in this container here just to set the bottom of these in so they get good and soaked in. And then while I pour on there, then I will place the flowers from here onto the board. Probably won't take time to video that process, but I'll show you where I'm at when it's done. Okay, so just a quick midway update. I've got those flowers placed. I've got the board mostly covered out. I got to pop bubbles and smooth out a few little things. I've got the flowers on the other side soaking in the tray here. That way I can level out the resin here where they'll go. It's still wet. Those will soak up where I cut them, so that way it'll all bond together, I expect, much better. And I'll get those placed, and then I'll get the heat gun out and start popping bubbles, like all those. Well, now just to let it dry. Got a little bit of dust. You can see a few spots in the resin where there's specks of dust. Let's see if I can get any. Probably should have put that fourth light and the ceiling fan back in, but by using the reflection, I can find small imperfections. I don't know if they'll show up on the video, but those flowers shouldn't go anywhere unless you hit them with a baseball bat. So it's been tedious, but the result is about what I expected.